वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचानूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णो वन्दे जगद्गुरुं श्रीकृष्णो वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Pranams from Dr. R.J. Kalpana. Welcome to the study of the Bhagavad Gita. We are studying chapter 2, Sankhyayoga, or the Yoga of Knowledge. Shloka 31. Besides considering your own duty too, you should not waver, for there is nothing more welcome for a man of the warrior class than a righteous war. So here, Krishna points out the natural duty of a Kshatriya, one who is trained in warfare, one who is trained to become a warrior, whose sole duty is to defend, protect, and guard the kingdoms that they are a part of. And for a warrior, for a soldier on duty, there is nothing more welcome than a righteous war. Please note the use of the word righteous, a quantifier where Krishna says that adhering to the laws of dharma, if the war is fought, not for selfish reasons, not for pleasures of the senses, but if it is fought for dharma, then there is no higher duty for a warrior than to participate and discharge his duties. Shloka 32. Arjuna, happy are the Kshatriyas who get such an unsolicited opportunity for war, which opens the door to heaven. And so here Krishna points out that not every warrior is faced with a righteous war. Greedy kings, lascivious-minded kings, or kings driven for carnage can very well wage war as well, and that Kshatriya might not have an option but to participate, however unwillingly, in that war. And so Krishna says that not every war is righteous, not every war is fought for dharma, but for those Kshatriyas, for those warriors who get such an unsolicited opportunity to war on the righteous side, to war for dharma, the doors of heaven are ever open to them. So even if they fall in battle, even if they die during discharging their duty on a battlefield, Krishna says they go straight to heaven. They get liberated. Shloka 33. Now if you refuse to fight this righteous war, then, shirking your duty and losing your reputation, you will ever incur sin. And so Krishna once again admonishes Arjuna and says that in this war of dharma, if you as a warrior, as a Kshatriya, refuse to fight, you're failing in your duty. And not only will you lose your reputation, but you will incur sin. Now, I'm not too happy about the use of the word sin. Please understand that the translation is English. So let us be kind to the translators, for they have done their best. And English as a language has deep roots in the Bible, in Christian theology, where sin is a commonly used term which has its own connotations. But Hindu consciousness, the reference to here is samskaras. Our load of samskaras, by our refusal to act, our load of samskaras will increase. Shloka 34. Nay, people will also pour undying infamy on you, and infamy brought on a man enjoying popular esteem is worse than death. And so here Krishna appeals to Arjuna's ego and says that people will mock you. And for a man like you, a warrior like you, who is so popular amongst everybody, who is welcomed everywhere with great honor and respect, this mockery will be worse than death. 35. And the warrior chiefs who thought highly of you will now despise you, thinking that it was fear which drove you from battle. And all those warrior chiefs, the warlords who have been arrayed against Arjuna and who have also taken up arms to fight alongside Arjuna, who think so highly of him, who think so highly of his skills, they will now despise you, thinking that it is fear and cowardice that has driven Arjuna from the battlefield. 36. And your enemies, disparaging your might, will speak many unbecoming words. What can be more distressing than this? Expanding more on the same topic, Krishna says that your enemies, they will mock and ridicule your might, that which you are so famous for, and they will speak many unbecoming words. How will you face it? How disturbing would it be for a man of your caliber, for a man of your expertise, to face such ridicule? Shloka 37. Die and you will win heaven. Conquer and you enjoy sovereignty of the earth. Therefore stand up, Arjuna, determined to fight. So in the previous shlokas, Krishna has offered many reasons demonstrating the various forms of ridicule and mockery by various types of people, from warrior chiefs to warlords to enemies, will think so poorly of his fear and cowardice. And here in Shloka 37, Krishna proceeds to demonstrate the advantage of participating in the upcoming battle. And so he says, die on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and you will win heaven. You will go directly to heaven if you fall in battle now, because this is Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre. Remember, We studied it at great length in the first two segments. And if you win, you will also enjoy sovereignty of the earth, royal wardship. You will get to rule. And therefore, Arjuna, stand up. Shake off this faint-heartedness, this fear, this cowardice that has eclipsed your heart and mind, and take up your position on the chariot, determined to fight. Shloka 38. Treating alike victory and defeat, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, get ready for the fight then. Fighting thus, you will not incur sin. So Krishna here shows how to prepare himself for the battle. He adds an entirely new dimension now, because remember, this is not Krishna the friend, this is Krishna the Guru. Vande Jagat Gurum. He is the spiritual master of the universe. And so he just doesn't stop by merely exhorting Arjuna to fight. He says, treat both victory or defeat alike. Whatever the outcome of the war, gain or loss, accept it for what it is. But then get ready for the fight. So if you're able to fight in this mindset of being detached from victory or loss, you will not accumulate any more samskaras. Your actions will be free from samskaras. They will be free from any follow-ups that might have to be. Every act of action will have a samskara. Every act of karma has a follow-up samskara. And so Krishna says here how to avoid those samskaras by treating victory and defeat alike, by treating pleasure and pain alike. Shloka 39. Arjuna, this attitude of mind has been presented to you from the point of view of Jnana Yoga. Now hear the same as presented from the standpoint of Karma Yoga, the yoga of selfless action. Equipped with this attitude of mind, you will be able to throw off completely the shackles of karma. As I had mentioned in Shloka 38, Krishna has spoken as a guru, not a friend. And so he continues by saying in Shloka 39 that this attitude of mind that I have just shared with you is from the point of a Jnana Yogi, the path of knowledge. Now, here the very same point of view presented from a Karma Yogi perspective, the path of selfless action. And once you know that secret, then you will be able to throw off completely the shackles of karma. You will be able to release yourself from this bondage that your actions will generate, because every action results in samskaras. Shloka 40. In this path of Karma Yoga or disinterested action, There is no loss of effort, nor is there fear of contrary result. Even a little practice of this discipline saves one from the terrible fear of birth and death. And so here, Krishna says that in this path there is no loss, nor is there any fear, because we are not attached to the results. Disinterested action. Our focus is only on the act itself, not on the results that the act will generate. Victory or loss, treat it both alike. So on this path, your efforts will not be lost, nor will there be any fear of contrary results, because there are no expectations attached to our actions. Our actions are standalones which are not invested emotionally or intellectually. So every act, there is no loss of that effort, and with every act there is no fear of a contrary result. Practicing such a discipline will save us from incurring samskaras, will save us from birth and death. Because as long as we have our little suitcase of samskaras, we are subject to birth and death. Shloka 41. Arjuna, in this yoga of disinterested action or karma yoga, the intellect is determinate and directed singly towards one ideal, whereas the intellect of the undecided, ignorant men, moved by desires, wanders in all directions after innumerable aims. Here, Krishna very clearly states that in Karma Yoga, or the path of action, the intellect is single-minded and focused on one goal. And for those who are not on the path of Karma Yoga, on the path of action, those ignorant men, because they are subject to the whims and fancies of their desires, because they are slaves to the sense pleasures, their mind wanders in all directions. To illustrate this point further, let us look at this little story. When the Pandavas and the Kauravas were studying under Dronacharya, as any teacher is wont to do, after every lesson taught, there will be a little test to determine how well the students have understood what has been taught. It is the same in ancient times as it is now. The nature of the test is probably varied, but the intent remains the same. So after a particularly grueling course, Dronacharya decides to test his students. And so he takes them to the field and points to a bird sitting on a branch of a tree in a distance. And he gives them their task. They have to shoot an arrow straight into the eye of that bird. The children are excited and they all line up, one after another, ready to test their skills. And as each student steps up to take their shot, Dronacharya asks them, "What do you see?" And each child replies, "I see the sky, I see the white clouds, I see the brown tree, I see the green leaves, I see the blue sky, I see the flowers, I see the birds flying in the sky." And finally, Arjuna steps up, and when Dronacharya asks him, "What do you see?" Arjuna says, "I see the eye of the bird, that is a determinate intellect directed singly towards one ideal, one goal, whereas the indeterminate, undifferentiated intellect wanders in all directions. Their goal is displaced because it has innumerable aims. The arrow doesn't really point at the eye of the bird. The arrow is pointed all over the place. So in Karma Yoga, or the yoga of action, there has to be single-minded attention towards the goal. Shloka 42, 43 and 44. Arjuna, those who are full of worldly desire and devoted to the letter of the Vedas, who look upon heaven as the supreme goal and argue that there is nothing beyond heaven, are unwise. They utter flowery speech, recommending many rituals of various kinds for the attainment of pleasure and power, with rebirth as their fruit. Those whose minds are carried away by such words and who are deeply attached to pleasure and worldly power cannot attain the determinate intellect concentrated on God. And so here Krishna tells Arjuna that those people who are consumed by materialistic desires, by the pleasures of their senses, who are full of worldly desires, and though they might be devoted to the letter of the Vedas, though they might be subject to the recommendations of the Vedas, of all the scriptural injunctions in the Vedas, for them heaven is the supreme goal, and they argue that there is nothing beyond heaven. Indraloka, it has to be translated as Indraloka. They consider that to be the goal because they are unable to perceive anything beyond that. And therefore, they recommend all the rites and rituals for the attainment of such pleasure and such power, which therefore entails in a cycle of births, because such intellects, such minds are deeply attached to pleasures. They're deeply attached to worldly power. They're deeply attached to this plane, to this dimension of earth. And they are unable to focus on the divine principle because their mind expands only thus far and no further. They're only able to perceive a little bit of the truth and not the complete truth. Shloka 44 also says the same thing, that those whose minds are carried away by flattery, they are attached to power, and therefore they cannot focus their attention on God. So we will come here and end to this session. We will continue in the next session. Om Yogesho Satchidanandam Vasudevam Rajapriyam Dharma Samstapakam Viram Krishno Vande Jagat Gurum Shri Krishno Vande Jagat Gurum. Om Shri Krishnarpanamastu.